I find his lack of balance disturbing.
It's all that data, bro. With SLT mega deals, he's got double data for the next 2 months.
Headlines on First at 9. Strong words. President Maithripala Sirisena warns new ministry secretaries of severe action on fraud and irregularities. Bus fare revision in offing. Analysts say that the pricing formula must be practical. Inclement weather. Daily life in the north disrupted due to heavy rainfall. Over 9,000 people affected. Root cause. Former Sri Lanka cricket captain says cricket administration in Sri Lanka failed to nurture talent. Back to square one. US government partially shuts down over border wall row. Markets nosedive from bull rally to bear territory.
මේ උත්සව සමයේ ස්මාර්ට් ඇන්ඩ්‍රොයිඩ් තාක්ෂණයෙන් එන සිංග විස්ටා TV එකක් මිලදී ගන්නා ඔබට හිත පිරෙන්න වාසි රැසක් ඕනෑම සිංග ප්‍රදර්ශනාගාරයකින්.
Good evening, bringing you news from across Sri Lanka and around the world on Other Derana 24/7. First at 9, I'm in the Muatha. We take a look at your top stories tonight. Public transport is a sector which is directly influenced with the automatic fuel pricing formula. Bearing this in mind, the National Transport Commission announced that measures will be taken to reduce bus fares, which is expected to come into effect following discussions on Monday. Today, however, the Lanka Federation of National Three-Wheeler Employees requested the Minister of Transport to intervene in the reduction of prices. Yesterday, Sepetco and LIOC reduced prices of petrol by 10 rupees per litre, auto diesel by 5 rupees and super diesel by 10 rupees per litre.
According to the national policy on increasing bus fares, measures are taken in the month of July each year to revise fares if prices move upward or downward by 4%. Even though prices of fuel have been revised by 2% on 3 occasions from the beginning of November this year, it is apparent that no significant change took place in the transportation sector. Public and private bus associations have come into agreement to reduce bus fares given prices of auto diesel have seen a reduction of 4.1% in the recent month. From midnight last night, the price of a litre of auto diesel, which stood at 106 rupees, has now decreased to 101 rupees. Previously, on the 1st of December, the price of auto diesel, which was 111 rupees per litre, was reduced to 106 rupees.
අද දිනේ ආණ්ඩුව විසින් නැවත වරක් රුපියල් 5ක ඩීසල් මිල අඩු කරලා තියෙනවා. මේ වන විට අපේ බස් ගාසු ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්තියේ ප්‍රතිශතය ඉක්ම වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ 104%ට ඉහළට ගිහිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි මේ ප්‍රතිලාභය ජනතාවට ලබා දෙන්න කටයුතු කරනවා. කෙසේ වෙතත් ජනතාවට ලබා දෙන ප්‍රතිලාභයේ ප්‍රතිශතය සඳහා දිනේදී ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කරනවා අමාත්‍යවරයා සමග සාකච්ඡා කිරීමෙන් අනතුරුව.
Meanwhile, the secretary to the All Ceylon Private Bus Owners Association, Anjana Priyanjit, said that bus fares can be reduced by around 5% due to the 2 most recent fuel price revisions. When Other Derana inquired about the revision of bus fares from a high-ranking official from the National Transport Commission, it was revealed that the percentage with which the reduction will take place is to be announced following discussions on Monday. Meanwhile, the price of a litre of Octane 92 saw a reduction of 19.35% within the past 1.5 months, which is a 30 rupee decrease. When Other Derana inquired about the benefit of the reduction of petrol from the chairman of Lanka Federation of National Three-Wheeler Employees, Sunil Jawadana requested the Minister of Transport to intervene in the reduction of prices.
මේ මගී ජනතාව මල්කොල්ල ගෑමක් සිදු කරනවා මේ තිරත වෘත්තිකයන් අපේට රෙහි වෙනවා සංගමයක් හැටියට වහම අනිත් සංගම් වලට අපි කියනවා කරුණාකරලා පළවෙනි කිලෝමීටර් රුපියල් 50ත් දෙවෙනි කිලෝමීටර් රුපියල් 35ටත් මේ මගින් ප්‍රවාහනය කිරීම සඳහා කටයුතු යොදන්න. එහෙමනම් අපි කියනවා රජයට වහම මේ තෙල් මිල අඩුවීමේ ගෞරවය රජය කෙරේ තියාගන්න අවශ්‍ය නම් මගී ජනතාවට සාන සලසන්න ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න ඕනේ මුදල් ඇමතිවරයා සහ ප්‍රවාහන ඇමතිවරයා.
Meanwhile, experts believe that the fuel pricing formula should be practical in order for the public to gain the full benefit of the reduction of fuel prices.
In a small country like Sri Lanka, the pricing formula is very complex. Around 40 to 50% of country's total refined products are manufactured in the Sapagasta refinery and the balance imported as refined product. But when you take the crude oil separately and the refined product separately, we should have two separate the pricing formulas because the refinery process is very economical for the country. And what I feel is that not the introduction of pricing formula is essential for the time being. What is required essentially is to operate the Sapagas and the refinery on a full capacity so that the country can benefit largely. How much should like a Sri Lanka, like a small country? I don't think the pricing formula is a practical instrument to give a reasonable price track to the general public. The government or the whoever can say unreasonable profit out of making this type of pricing formula.
Commodity prices, especially crude oil prices, OPEC has intimated that they, together with Russia, will now consider cutting supply. Now, if these supply cuts do kick in, then we might necessarily see crude oil prices bounce back to about $60 a barrel. If it gets to $60 a barrel, the Sri Lankan government will face significant pressure because we have seen already crude oil imports increase by 33% on a year-on-year basis, exceeding $3 billion, which is a huge constraint on our external funding resources. So this particular trend needs to be watched very carefully, and the government must really act to stabilize fuel prices domestically if it is to reap the benefits of such reductions in the real economy. The pass-through factor also needs to be considered because even though the real economy the consumer seems to enjoy the reduction in prices, the real economy has still not enjoyed the pass-through of such reductions because the bus fare revisions also have been on hold. Plus, we have seen transport prices also not being revised accordingly. So, for the Sri Lankan economy to truly benefit, these price reductions needs to be passed through to the consumers and to the industrial sector.
If one looks at it from a holistic point of view, the price formula appear to be more politically driven than the economic considerations, given that the price formula is in conformity with the present government thinking of putting everything on a market-based pricing structure, whether it is going to be appropriate or not. And the second is it doesn't give consideration to the difficulties and the constraints that people go through as a result of the price formula, and it is inability to transfer any reductions in price to a range of products that depend on oil prices.
President Maithripala Sirisena had strong words for newly appointed secretaries to ministries, warning severe action against fraud and corruption. The president, addressing these new ministry secretaries, said state sector employees should leave no room for illegal activities and irregularities, regardless of how strong the influence may be. He said regardless of the number of instances in which the term good governance is used by both the citizens and international community when referring to Sri Lanka's state governance, the true concept of good governance is yet to be realized in the state sector. The president called the officials to work stringently in upholding the dignity of state service in the face of undue pressure for corrupt activities and irregularities, reiterating that such acts will be severely dealt with. And several roads were inundated in the district of Kilinochchi due to heavy rainfall in the last 24 hours experienced in the area, hindering daily public activity. Issuing an advisory, the Department of Meteorology today moved to caution the northern, eastern and north central provinces of the country and the Putlam district to be aware of heavy rainfall of above 100 millimeters during the day tomorrow. Heavy showers or thunder showers are expected due to low-level atmospheric disturbances in the vicinity of Sri Lanka.
The Department of Meteorology today issued an advisory for the northern, eastern and north central provinces and for Putlam district as showers of over 100 millimeters can be expected in the areas owing to the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, the spill gates of the tank Iranamadu was opened today due to heavy rainfall experienced in the area, resulting in many low-lying areas being inundated. Sri Lanka Army officers, together with officials of the Disaster Management Unit, carried out an operation to rescue stranded people. Vehicular movement in the A9 route was disrupted due to the area of Mankulam being inundated. Meanwhile, due to tank Muttu Ayyan Kattu in the area of Vasantapuram breaking its banks, many surrounding low-lying areas were seen submerged. Families from the surrounding areas were later directed to safer locations. According to data by the Disaster Management Centre, 9,161 people belonging to 2,788 families of Mullaitivu, Kilinochchi and Mana districts have been directed to safer areas. Meanwhile, a group of stranded in the Vilpattu National Park were also rescued by the army, together with the Navy with support of disaster management officials.
Rain has occurred since last evening, especially in the northern area, and Mullaitivu and Kilinochchi and the Jaffna district been affected with the rainfall occurred since last 24 hours time. So 3 districts been affected and 9 divisional secretary areas been affected. 9,161 people been affected. 40 evacuation centers been set up since very early in the morning. 1,829 families been evacuated. So they have been treated with the cooked meals and all other relief items under the supervision of the district secretaries, and the funds been released by the Ministry of Disaster Management. The rescue missions been started since early morning, and Disaster Management Center initiated all the rescue missions with the support of military and the police.
As part of a growing US-Sri Lanka naval partnership, United States Navy's landing ship USS Rush Mo has called Colombo for a scheduled port visit, marking the second port visit by a ship assigned to the Essex Amphibious Ready Group following USS Anchorage's visit to Trincomalee in August. Sri Lanka Navy was seen welcoming the ship and the crew in accordance with naval traditions. Additionally, the visit follows the Sri Lankan Navy's inaugural participation in Exercise Rim of the Pacific, which concluded in August, as well as Exercise Cooperation Afloat Readiness and Training held for the first time last year. The 185-meter-long vessel, with a displacement of 18,000 tons, is manned by 380 officers and sailors and led by Commander Robert Tryon. It is understood that during the visit, key leadership engagements between Rush Mo's senior leadership and Sri Lanka Navy will continue to build the foundation of mutual understanding to increase interoperability between the US and Sri Lanka navies, including the humanitarian and disaster relief capabilities brought to bear by Rush Mo. The USS Rush Mo, which is on a 6-day visit, is scheduled to depart the island on Wednesday next week. And we take a short commercial break. To stay with us, we'll return with your business news after this.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies of Sri Lanka, Professor Asanga Abegunasekara, is of the view that the likes of economic dialogue and colloquium will pave the way for a constructive future, as political instability has become a common scene in many parts of the globe. Professor Abegunasekara delivered his thoughts on the matter while addressing the international research organizations and think tanks in Colombo recently.
The Colombo Shangri-La Colloquium 2018 was held in Colombo for the first time under the theme of Towards a Collective Regional Security Agenda. The Institute of National Security Studies, which comes under the Ministry of Defence, said that the inaugural event was attended by over 20 research organizations and think tanks from 10 countries.
The political instability is seen in almost every part of the region, from Britain recently, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, US, Maldives, Pakistan, and also Sri Lanka. The security of Asia has changed due to economic uplift of China, moving 800 million out of poverty and becoming an economic powerhouse of Asia. Deep polarization is seen in many societies, politically divided into two camps, the Western and the Chinese, while the global superpower has overstretched and seen busy establishing the liberal order. The rising power China is establishing its One Belt, One Road initiative with its own characteristics. The world is at a crossroad. Societies are polarized and leaders are busy defending their actions. Colombo Shangri-La Colloquium is happening at a time of global instability and with many challenges. We are entering an era of globalization 4.0. Is globalization being redefined in a world preoccupied by crisis at a moment of transformative change? We will use the spirit of Colombo Shangri-La to build the future in constructive and a collaborative way.
Well, Sri Lanka's external sector continued to be under pressure in October as the trade deficit widened significantly due to higher growth in import expenditure alongside a marginal growth in exports. The trade gap widened to $903 million in October from $752 million in the same month last year. Export earnings grew by only 0.4% to $979 million. A central bank statement said that the marginal growth of exports in October reflected mainly the decline in agricultural exports by 11.5%, which offset a 4.5% growth in industrial exports. Spending on merchandise imports increased by a larger share of 9% to record $1.8 billion in October as expenditure on intermediate goods increased due to higher imports of fuel, and spending on consumer goods increased owing to higher imports of personal motor cars of less than 1,500 cc, hybrid and electric motor vehicles. However, Central Bank's Economic Research Department believes the trend of increasing imports will reduce in the coming months with the eventual impact of the recently introduced restrictions on certain import categories. Professor Tissa Vitharana, meanwhile, calls for a change in Sri Lanka's economic policy that harmonizes with the changes that are taking place in the country. He also stressed that the island nation should not submit to foreign powers in taking decisions regarding the country's economy.
We are faced with economic, political and social crisis. So we are really at a crossroads. We have to find which way we are going to travel. We have the need to look after the national interest. The country develops economically and that we are able to face the challenges of globalization. We need to work out a policy which is not confrontational, which will harmonize with the changes that are occurring. These are being done by bigger powers than ourselves. So we must be well aware of that. But at the same time, we don't need to submit to them so that they run over us and make full use of us without giving us any advantage. We have to some extent, depend on foreign investment. But you find that this particular government didn't provide the environment for the foreign direct investment. And there was really an outflow of FDI rather than an inflow. Because the idea, rather than developing our economy, being self-sufficient and developing our own industries, the idea of dependence on imports was a factor. Those very policies which this government of the last 3.5 years have followed, which has put the tax burden on the people in general, the poor in particular, through indirect taxes, while minimizing direct taxes so that the rich have it good, and their luxury lifestyles has led to adverse balance of trade, and that itself has led to getting indebted. And I think it is in that context that we have to work out solutions by changing those policies. Those are fundamental changes.
In some international business news, US stocks suffered one of the worst weekly falls in a decade as trade tensions with China, interest rate rises and a possible government shutdown rattled markets. The Nasdaq Composite Index has confirmed it is in a bear market for the first time since 2008, underscoring fears that the longest bull run in history for US stocks could soon be over. The Dow Jones Industrial Average recorded its biggest weekly drop in percentage terms since 2008. The S&P 500 fell 7% for the week. After years of gains, analysts say that US investors were fleeing stocks, worried about a range of factors likely to hit corporate profits, including slowing economic growth domestically and abroad. Earlier this week, the US Federal Reserve lifted the interest rates and signaled that it would continue to rise next year, albeit at a lower pace. The Fed also cut its forecasts for economic growth in 2019 to 2.3%, down from the 2.5% predicted in September.
They're selling and buying our shares of stock.
In international news, a partial U.S. government shutdown has taken effect early today after American lawmakers failed to break a budget impasse. United States President Donald Trump, who has to sign off any deal, is insisting at least $5 billion in funding be included for his long-promised wall along the Mexican border. Lawmakers adjourned last-minute talks yesterday, and in the absence of an agreement, funding for about a quarter of all U.S. federal agencies lapsed at midnight. It means the Departments of Homeland Security, Transportation, Agriculture, State and Justice will begin to shut down, and federal national parks and forests will also be affected. The partial closure, the third of this year, means hundreds of thousands of federal employees will have to work unpaid or be put on temporary leave.
In a video address published on President Donald Trump's Twitter account shortly before the government shutdown began, the president insisted the onus was on the Democrats to resolve the closure.
Our great country must have border security. We don't want people coming in that aren't supposed to be here. We want people to come in through a legal process. It's very dangerous out there. Drugs are pouring in, human trafficking, so many different problems, including gangs like MS-13. We don't want them in the United States. We don't want them in our country. The only thing that's going to stop that is great border security with a wall or a slat fence or whatever you want to call it. But we need a great barrier. And if we don't have it, it's never going to work. Last night, the House of Representatives passed this very important bill, 217 to 185. Some people were surprised by the number. I wasn't, because everybody wants to see our border protected. Now it's up to the Senate, and it's really up to the Democrats, because we need their votes. There's no way it can pass without their votes. We're going to have a shutdown. There's nothing we can do about that, because we need the Democrats to give us their votes. Call it a Democrat shutdown, call it whatever you want, but we need their help to get this approved. So Democrats, we have a wonderful list of things that we need to keep our country safe. Let's get out, let's work together, let's be bipartisan, and let's get it done. The shutdown hopefully will not last long. Thank you very much.
Senior Democrats have accused the president of provoking the situation with a temper tantrum. On Wednesday, a stopgap spending bill was passed in order to keep federal agencies open until February 8 next year. But the agreement did not include funding for Trump's Mexico border wall. After a rare backlash from his supporters and hardline Republicans, Trump dug his heels in over the issue and insisted funds for the wall must be included for him to sign it off. Under current rules, spending bills are approved in the House of Representatives with a simple majority vote. The House has now approved $5.7 billion of funding for the wall. But before the spending bill reaches the president, it also needs to be passed by 60 votes in the Senate, where Republicans only hold 51 seats.
A Royal Navy warship which was sent to Ukraine is intended to send a strong message to Russian President Vladimir Putin. HMS Echo was sent into the Black Sea earlier this month after Russia seized 3 ships belonging to Ukraine's Navy and their crews. The UK's Defence Secretary Gavin Williamson said the presence of the British ships shows support for the Ukraine in the face of increased Russian aggression. It will be followed by other warships as part of a more constant British presence, according to the Defence Secretary, who visited the ship in the port of Odessa in southern Ukraine. As tensions between Russia and Ukraine over access to the area off the coast of Crimea intensifies, NATO has recently stepped up its operations in the Black Sea with increased warship patrols. Crimea used to be part of an independent Ukraine but was annexed by Russia in 2014, although the Ukrainians say that Crimea remains their territory. And we'll be back with your sports news and weather forecast for the next 24 hours after this short break. To stay with us.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
In sports, former Sri Lanka cricket captain Mahela Jayawardena highlights that cricket administration in Sri Lanka has failed over the years to nurture talent in order to produce consistent quality cricketers to represent Sri Lanka at national level. At the unveiling ceremony of the Mahela Sangha Challenge Trophy, which will be presented to the winners of the Nalanda Trinity annual cricket encounter, Mahela stressed on the need to begin work towards a stable national team starting from school level.
The Mahela and Sangha Challenge Trophy, named after the 2 former national cricket captains Mahela Jayawardena and Kumar Sangakkara, will become an annual encounter between Nalanda College, Colombo and Trinity College, Kandy, the alma maters of the 2 cricketing greats. The duo unveiled the Mahela and Sangha Challenge Trophy on Thursday, ahead of the first cricket encounter scheduled to be held on the 28th and 29th of December at the Nalanda College grounds.
It's about the next generation, it's not about Sangha or myself, how we can contribute to the development of the entire country. The most important thing is to find opportunities for young talented cricketers and make sure that they have been nurtured properly and they have been put in the right structure so that the talent will allow them to play for Sri Lanka.
Jayawardena went on to say that lack of implementation of changes made within school cricket over the past decade has hindered the improvement of talent to represent the nation.
Especially the conditions, the balls that they've been using and the coaching methods. So that's something that we want to streamline and try and see how best we can enforce new coaching techniques, especially for school kids. We've seen our under-19 emerging team did really well in the Asia Cup. So that means we do have our talent, but somewhere along the way we seems to lose them before national duty. That's an area that administration desperately need to focus on so that we could produce consistent quality cricketers representing Sri Lanka.
Cricket ක්‍රීඩාව අපිට ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ විශේෂිත වෙලා තියෙන ක්‍රීඩාවකට වඩා එය තුලින් අපි ලබන ධනාත්මක ආభాෂය නිසා ඉංග්‍රීසි ව්‍යවහාරයෙන්ුත් කියනවා මොන හරි දෙයක් නොකරොත් it's just not cricket. තමන්ගේ ඉදිරි ගමන සාර්ථක කරගන්න අවශ්‍ය නම් ලකුණු කඩුළු සියලු දේ අමතක කළා ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාවේ නියම හරය තෝරාගෙන එය හරියමං විදිහට පිළිඹු වෙන අන්දමට පිටියේදී ක්‍රීඩා කරන්න.
And that's all from us here at First at 9. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.